This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hello everybody, welcome to the show. It is Party Loaded. It is a podcast on the evening of Wednesday, the 7th of August. This year is flying past at such a clip, but we're going to chat to you about all the greatest things in video gaming this week. Anyway, my name is Luke Retallick, and introducing tonight on the show, we have the duo of Mr. Adrian Chia and Christian Paulson Brown. Hello, gentlemen. What's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, muscular listeners.
What about our non-muscular listeners?
Well, they can listen to a different episode.
Sure. I literally came from my gym session to record this podcast tonight, so I'll take it. Totally nice. Appropriate, yeah. Matt is out tonight. He's teaching students game stuffs, so we're going to forge on without him on this eve. But yeah, we still got plenty to cover. Lots of fun bits and pieces. I'd like to pick up with This Week in Gaming off one of our chats last week and check in on Adrian to make sure that he's okay. So, did you reclaim your lost time with Fire Emblem? What was the fallout for that after we finished chatting?
And then some. So yeah. I sure enough, I got back into it and made up the lost time that I'd lost through starting again. And it was actually my first week of uni this week. So I was saying to Christian earlier that I'm now fully appreciating the versatility of the Switch.
Oh yeah.
I've never really I've had it on planes before, but on a plane I've never really fully enjoyed it all that much. I think because I'm not very comfortable when I fly. And this time I was able to sort of take my Switch with me to uni, grab it out in between classes or as I'm waiting for something to happen and, do a bit of playing. And because of the nature of Fire Emblem Three Houses, there's always something to do, a little bit of tinkering here, a little bit of updating there. So, I was really enjoying it. And, so I am now fully utilizing the portability of the Switch, which I wasn't really doing before. And there's a unique satisfaction in coming home, sliding it into the dock and sort of just picking up where I left off.
That's what I was going to ask about, actually. Like, at home, are you generally a dock user? You will...
Yeah. I rarely play it. If I'm in the house, I never really use it undocked.
Yeah.
Not if I don't have to, because I just prefer having the larger screen and being able to enjoy it that way without squinting if I don't need to.
This is the thing that fascinates me still, even a couple of years into the Switch's release cycle. The number of people I know who own a Switch, and I speak to all of them about how they use it, everybody's different. There seems to be no consistency with, everybody uses it docked, everybody uses it handheld. It's all over the fucking place, which I think is actually a really big set of indication that they nailed it with this stuff.
Yeah. IGN did a poll recently, and it was coming out pretty much 50%, mostly docked or mostly handheld. It's pretty interesting.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. They've really captured a bit of that Wii magic. I mean, obviously not as universally loved as the Wii in regards to how accessible it was to people of all ages. But I think Nintendo kind of rides on these kind of gimmicky successes, and this one's, done really well. So, big fan. So, Fire Emblem Three Houses, really enjoying that. I'm really impressed with the sort of the depth of the interactions of the characters, and I was sort of explaining it to my wife the other night when she sat down just before going to bed just to check in and see what I was doing, and I was hosting a tea party with a particular student and trying to win them over so that they would join my class, and my wife indicated that was very unethical as a teacher, but this is the kind of scope you're given in a Fire Emblem game. So, and I was saying to her that there's far more scripted dialogue and kind of cutscene and character interaction than I was expecting because of the number of students. I think there's 18 to 20 students roughly, and more characters on top of that, and each of them can build relationships with each other, and those relationships rank up over time from rank D to A, B, C, D in reverse order, getting better and better. And as each time their relationships rank up, they have a little cutscene, and it's that kind of thing where like you'll see advertised like, this new company is making an ice cream where you put your own toppings on. There's 8 different toppings, but thousands of combinations. So really, you have thousands of different types of ice cream. It's kind of like that, where there's so many characters that there's so much to see and so much to listen to and read. But I feel myself sort of descending down a very weeby rabbit hole.
Yes, good.
Yeah, I can feel it starting
Does
to
it
happen.
flow through you?
Yes.
So, two points of clarity just before you go on. So you were saying with the ranking system that A is the lowest?
No.
Sorry, no, it's the other way around. A's the highest. I just didn't describe it well enough.
Cool. Yeah,
Like I flipped around in my mind. So, no, yeah, it's got that Japanese system where it goes like C, B, A, S, and S is the top rank. And
Gotcha.
your characters gradually improve their relationships, and those relationships translate to bonuses on the battlefield when they're fighting with each other and next to each other and that kind of thing. So. It's not as tactically deep as I was expecting, but that's kind of offset by the sheer quantity of character development. So it's good in that way. So yeah, enjoying that.
Got to hand it to your wife though. That's a turn of phrase in this day and age. Tea party ethics. Holy shit.
I'll quickly say with the tactical depth, Luke, last week you asked about the weapons triangle.
Yeah.
And said that it wasn't in the game. It turns out it kind of still is in the game. Basically, like the weapon classes, once you rank up far enough within that class, you unlock like an equipable skill that does give you a bonus against a certain weapon type. So like you'll get like a lance breaker for an axe wielder, where they are more effective against lances. So they still have like that super effectiveness, but you have to earn it through progression rather than it just being innate.
So more like a granular rock, paper, scissors buff. I like that. I think that's a better system, actually.
Yeah, I think it's better too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
good.
Adrian, go on.
No, that's right. The other game that I've been playing again along with Christian is Battlefield 5.
Yay!
Yeah, I've been really enjoying that. I've touched on and off with the Battlefield series over time, usually because Christian's wrote me into it and like willingly, and I've sort of enjoyed it. I'm not one for modern shooters. I really don't like modern shooters because I find all the guns to be exactly the same. Maybe it's a result of growing up playing like Quake and Unreal and Blood and those kinds of games where every weapon is totally different from each other and they're kind of quirky and crazy. And I love games like Ratchet and Clank where all your weapons are like totally different and kind of wacky. And I find modern shooters just to be kind of boring where they all just shoot bullets. So I find that a bit dull. But in saying that, Battlefield 5 is a bit more appealing because it's set in World War II. I don't know, it's just kind of a simpler
more flavour.
a bit more flavour. It's kind of a simpler time. It's a bit more transportative, and I just find it a bit easier to digest. So I've been really enjoying that, except for one thing that I wanted to mention, and that is
I know what this is.
oh my god, the hackers! Like I am certainly not the kind of person that when I die or when I do badly blame hackers, because I find that's a bit of a toxic behaviour. But having now played plenty of Battlefield 5, it is absolutely evident that hacking is a real problem in this game.
It's rife in there. Like,
It's really bad. And like you might play 10 rounds of Battlefield 5 over the course of maybe 1.5 to 2 hours, and over half of the matches you play, there will be someone on the opposing team who's hacking the game. And you can tell because their kill-death ratio is like 70-0.
Oh, Jesus. That's a bit of a giveaway.
And the next most legitimate score might be like 20 or 19. So there's a huge. It's clearly evident that people are cheating the game, and it really kind of breaks it because a lot of the time, I mean, Battlefield is known for the run, die kind of adage, which is because the game has such a huge open area. You spawn in, you run across the battlefield, and then a sniper across the other side of the map snipes you and you die. That's sort of a running gag with Battlefield 5. But it's never been so bad that it makes the game unenjoyable. With this kind of prevalence of hacking that I've found, it does kind of destroy the enjoyment of the game. Yeah. So you kind of have to search to find a server that doesn't have someone hacking in it, and then the game kind of returns to being enjoyable. So I don't know, it kind of needs a bit of work to kind of weed out those people. How they would do it, I have no idea. I don't know.
So you don't
happens
think
on the
that
back end.
EA or DICE have actually got any real measure against it at the moment?
Well, you can report those people, but that's a solution. That's a long-term solution for a game. That's a long-term solution that you'll never see. Like it's unlikely that you'll play that guy soon. So I think Christian might want to speak on this because he had a rather elegant solution that he mentioned earlier today.
I think this is just a system that I've seen in plenty of other games, which is just vote kick, where if you can type vote kick and then a person's name, and then it will start a vote in the player chat, and then if enough people agree, that a player gets kicked. And I was saying sure, that system can be abused in some circumstances, and you may get the odd person who is a false positive where people think they're hacking but they're not. But when it's so clear when people are hacking, there needs to be a way to remedy that because it is ruining the game. And it's shocking to me that EA and DICE haven't been able to do something about it because a lot of people might sort of shake their fists and say why aren't you doing anything? But surely they are aware of it and would like to do something about it. It just surprises me that they haven't figured out how when it just must be more complicated than I think it is to deal with because
the other aspect too is that it's not a game that's heavily promoted for its sort of competitive online play in an esports sense or anything like that. It's not. You don't see headlines around sort of Battlefield 5 tournaments and, that kind of fair play being critical to the game's success. So,
but yeah, I mean, I get that, but tournaments are usually pretty safe from hacking because you're watching everybody play.
Yeah, you're also in a closed environment, so.
Yeah. Whereas I think that large, multiplayer games, these are 64-player games, that's sort of where hacking has the most impact in some ways because it's one person kind of ruining the fun for 63 other people. And I think that it's a kind of a case of there needing to be the most the harshest penalty and the best system for preventing hackers is in this type of game exactly. So it's surprising to me.
That number of players, though, I think is probably a good reason why that vote kick method is maybe not the best in this case because if you think about it, the number of players that you'd ideally want to vote to kick somebody in a player pool that big would indicate that there's people voting who haven't had any way to sort of confirm that type of behavior because there's no way that everyone's going to see that. So
you press tab and then you see 70 0.
If it is that visible in that respect, yeah, sure. But I think the other thing too is that the vote kick function in games works best when you have a result where people are voting somebody to be kicked who's on their own team because it's fucking up the game for everybody. Because then that way it's not just used as a competitive weapon to try and remove a good player from the opposite side. So
it's definitely not something that you'd be able to do with one team. It would take both teams to do it, of course.
Yeah. Interesting. The only other game that I'm aware of that has such rampant sort of hacking and cheating is GTA Online. But I think in that case, it's not the same kind of competitive game and it is very much a sandbox for shenanigans. So people kind of just let it pass a lot of the time because a lot of the time it actually adds to the hilarity. But I've definitely had occasions where I've played GTA and I've just gotten sick to death of it because people are doing dumb stuff that just wrecks your fun. So, yeah. Yeah, I get it. Cool. All right.
I mean, I'll jump in now as well because I've also been playing Fire Emblem and Battlefield, so kind of covered that in part with Adrian. But, yeah, don't have really much more to add there. I've also the new Hearthstone expansion dropped today. That says Saviors of Uldum. So I've been playing a bit of Hearthstone. I'm worried that this new meta after this expansion won't be that different to the old meta, and it's feeling a bit stale. And I kind of have a feeling that Hearthstone is a dying game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've seen saw some stats today that there's a tracking site called HS Replay where it sort of tracks win rates and card power and that sort of thing. And in the last 12 months, the number of reports to it has halved. So it was basically the number of players inputting data into this database has halved in the last year, which is only one sort of smaller environment, but it is indicative of a larger problem, I think, which is Hearthstone on the decline.
Yeah, I think there's three key things that might be contributing to that at the moment. One is that Hearthstone appears to have not really iterated much beyond the standard kind of expansion cycle that they're in. Like people who have been waiting for any other big sort of changes or updates to the game in the form of things like tournament mode and that kind of stuff have been repeatedly disappointed. And, I don't think there's any chance of holding out hope for that stuff coming soon unless there's things in the works that are very, very hidden at the moment. But the other two things, I think that number one is the general malaise around the Blizzard fan base currently as a result of a lot of the stuff that's happened in the last 12 to 18 months. But the third thing is that we've had this massive meteoric rise of all of the auto battlers this year. And I think that has actually dug quite a bit into the Hearthstone sort of fan base and the fan bases of a lot of the card games online because it's a similar kind of, I think, pool of people who like to play those kinds of games. And I know for a fact that there's definitely some big name sort of Hearthstone streamers and personalities that have made the move over to cover like Teamfight Tactics or Dota Underlord stuff as a result. So that is visible to me. Yeah.
That you're definitely right with the auto battlers. For Hearthstone people, it seems to be Teamfight Tactics in particular. So I still spend a lot of time watching Hearthstone streamers, and I'm quite across the sort of competitive Hearthstone scene. And it is definitely a big migration for a lot of people to Teamfight Tactics. But that's driven also, there's another factor that you didn't mention, which is a year ago, Blizzard changed the formatting for their pro scene for Hearthstone, so that ladder finishes, so finishing in the high legend ranks, no longer contributed to your like placements in the sort of global rankings and your eligibility for tournaments. Now that's all run through open cups that you play separately off the ladder. So the actual ranked mode of Hearthstone doesn't matter to competitive Hearthstone players anymore, like flat out. And a big part of watching streamers was watching them trying to get high legend ranks so that their esports career, you were kind of supporting them through their esports career. Now you just can't do that anymore. And so and the streamers, they don't find it fun because ladder doesn't mean anything to them. And yeah, that's definitely been a big part of it as well.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, as far as the game goes, like I think the expansion's fine. The game's, still fun. It may feel a little bit stale in parts, but I think that the general meta is not at its worst at the moment at all. I think it's actually okay. But it's all the other stuff that's the problem.
Yeah,
and it is definitely a problem. Yeah, fair enough.
I think the main reason it's failing is because there aren't enough Tortolan cards. It's basically
they added a new one this expansion. There's another
one card.
Yeah, another one.
No, give me a whole deck of turtles and then I'll come back.
Yep, absolutely. I've opened up a bunch of packs for that this morning as well, and been mucking around a bit, and that's been good fun. But gents, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to talk about Destiny for a minute because that's kind of been my entire week this week. But I have a good reason why, and I want to talk specifically about the event that's on at the moment, which is called The Dawning. So now Destiny 2 is running
the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
I was just about to say that. Except I was about to sing it. So probably better for our listeners that you got in first.
No, so I mean, there's a couple of big things happening in the game at the moment that have kind of complemented each other in a weird way. And I think Matt's mentioned one of them. So they've got this thing on at the moment called the Moments of Triumph, which is like it's like a prestige list of achievements. And if you manage to get all of them, there's some really cool unlocks inside and outside of the game that you can earn. One of which being there's like a Moments of Triumph t-shirt that you can get the code for if you complete enough of these objectives, and there's also like a special medallion you can order directly from Bungie, which is a pretty highly sought after item because there's a limited time you can actually complete all this stuff and get it. So that's driving a lot of people to play a lot at the moment. But in addition to that, they've also started running this event that they've done annually, to my understanding, called The Dawning, which is kind of like the way you could kind of pitch it is it's almost like celebrating like a holiday season within Destiny 2. And it's not necessarily Christmas themed specifically, but it kind of has the same sort of, celebrating achievements and togetherness vibe with regards to the characters in the game. But it's done in a totally non-cheesy way and one that actually fits the background of Destiny, which I kind of appreciate. But in a game manner, in terms of the mechanics, that's what I want to really talk about because I think it's actually quite interesting how they've implemented it this time. So we've got the next expansion for Destiny launching in a couple of months now, which it was actually just revealed this week that it's no longer going to be September. They've pushed it back to the first week of October, which I think most of the fan base is actually really happy about, which is cool because it gives everybody more time to finish this stuff, which is a great place for them to be in, I think. Like, if you can actually say that you're going to delay something to your fan base and your fan base is like, fuck yeah, that's awesome news, then that's great. Take the extra time to polish your product. That's probably the best outcome for everybody. But in this particular case, it's meant that this event's going to be running a little bit longer too, which is good. But the whole event is themed around these sets of armor that you can kind of earn and build for your characters. And there's different sort of rarity levels of the armor pieces that you can sort of build up sort of through, starting at the green level, which is kind of your uncommon, through to blue, which is rare, and through to purple, which is your legendary. And then on top of that, you can also masterwork each individual piece, which sort of further enhances it. But the reason why it's a really cool thing to sort of seek after in this particular case is because this is the only set of armor that is actually going to inherit all of the new properties of the stuff that they're releasing in the expansion for Shadowkeep come October. So in October, like, a lot of the gear in the game is going to have an extra granular level of sort of upgradable aspect and cosmetic sort of switcheroony stuff to it, which I don't quite understand, but this is kind of how it's all going to work. And this armor is actually going to fit that model. So as of that changeover, pretty much most of the other armor in the game people won't want to use anymore, because it's all the old stuff that doesn't have this sort of degree of changeability to it. But this set will, and it's kind of like your first taste at getting that gear ahead of the expansion, so that's got a lot of people really excited. But it also looks freaking cool. Like, you've got these really cool little holographic effects of all of the different elements in the game that sort of stick out on the armor. And unlike some cosmetics in other games, this stuff actually looks really rad, so people will really want it because it looks great. But the way that you earn it is fascinating. Like, they've actually set these challenges up where you have all of your different pieces of armor that have individual objectives on them, and each armor piece, I think it's 5 in total, for a set, will have like 3 objectives on it that you have to complete over a period of time. And once you've sort of powered up all of your armor pieces and you've completed all the objectives on all of them, you go back to base at the tower, you do like a meditation sort of scene, and then you get upgraded to the next layer of armor pieces, and then you go through another set of challenges. Now, on one hand, this sounds super grindy, and
it sounds like just checklists.
It does sound a little bit like that, but the reason why it's not just checklists is because the way they've set the activities to these pieces of armor are actually really clever in a lot of ways, because it encourages you to do things that exist in the game already without sort of introducing a huge amount of new content. There is a new activity called the European aerial zone, which is kind of like a top of rooftops sort of zone where you can fight a whole bunch of mini bosses and then take on like an area boss. It's different to everything else in the game because of the nature of you sort of jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and you can actually sort of come down to the ground, then you have to find your way back up, and the aerial nature of the combat's really cool. But the other reason why it's all different is because throughout this entire event, they've got like an elemental buff that exists in all activities. And that buff actually is done by orbs dropping when you hit enemies with particular elemental weapons and your super abilities. Now, the cool thing about this is it actually changes the way that you play, because you actually want to start attuning yourself to the different element that's live at any given time, because within the 3 elements in the game, it actually cycles through and you have like a day focusing on each one on like a regular pattern. So for like the day where solar is in effect, for instance, you want to actually go into these activities using solar abilities and solar weapons. Or you want to use your other ones to sort of counter some of those solar effects in different interesting ways that it actually forces you to think about how you're approaching these activities in a way it's different to how you normally would. So the reason why I think this is fun is because, yes, there's a lot of stuff you have to complete to upgrade your armor, and yes, it's taking you into activities and things that exist in the game, but they've been clever enough to actually make you do it in a different manner that is actually new and fresh and exciting and doesn't feel like a grind. So I think it's a really fascinating study in a game using kind of older content, if we're being real, and spinning it in a way that encourages people to experience it again in a way that doesn't feel sort of tired and samey to them. So it's quite fascinating. And the other thing they've done, which I like a lot, is a bunch of these objectives, particularly with the first layer of the armor that you work towards, they actually give you the choice of different activities to complete in order to get the tasks done. So there's one, for example, where you have to complete a certain number of either Gambit matches or Crucible rounds. So if you don't like PvE and you prefer doing the PvE, if you don't like PvP and you like doing the PvE activity of Gambit instead, then you can do that instead of having to subject yourself to an activity that you don't like as much. So that kind of agency of choice, I think, is a really cool way to do activities like this, and it's something that I haven't seen a lot of other games do particularly successfully when it comes to big grinds like this. So I just think it's really interesting, and I thought it would be really dull and boring and like a huge sort of time sink to get all this stuff done, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it as a result, and I think it's exactly because of the way that they've built a lot of these activities. So yeah,
I have a question. I'm not that interested in playing Destiny 2, but if I wanted to, what would I have to actually buy to get access to all of the content that's available now? Like, I bought Destiny 2 on release.
Yeah.
And I haven't paid for any expansions or anything.
Didn't you get the one where you go to Mercury?
Yeah.
Osiris?
Osiris?
Curse of Osiris.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got that, but then like, how much more would I need to pay for to get access to everything?
It's an interesting question at the moment because of the timing before the Shadowkeep release, but really there's two ways you can go. One is you can basically play the base game and get the annual pass for this year, which has all of the content that's kind of been released this year, aside from Forsaken. And you get access to most of the current sort of big in-game activities and events and that sort of stuff without the Forsaken story content. And you can go that way. Or option 2 is wait until Shadowkeep in October and jump in when you can basically play the base game for free and then buy the annual pass for the Shadowkeep sort of period and get all of the stuff that's current then. So I don't know what's going to happen with Forsaken, like whether they're going to hugely discount that as a package or not. But I like my honest opinion, because of where the game's at the moment, is just fucking buy Forsaken because it's so good. It's really, really good.
So I need to buy Forsaken, buy the season pass, and then buy this new thing when it comes out as well?
I can't remember if the season pass is bundled with Forsaken. It might be, but otherwise, yes, that would be the answer. It really comes down to whether you want to experience all of it now or whether you want to wait till the Shadowkeep expansion and kind of get it all then. Yeah. So, but I mean, the base game is kind of like not even part of that equation at the moment. I've seen stores who know that the Destiny New Light sort of free-to-play version is coming out soon. They've literally been discounting retail copies of Destiny 2 to like $1. So, you're not paying for the base game anymore. You're effectively paying for the other stuff. But, money to fun ratio, I think, is pretty good on this one. So, yeah.
Cool.
And you and Adrian, as examples, would know like your base level of interest in Destiny 2 as a game because you've played enough of it to kind of know the core loop. It's more all of the recent sort of stuff that you would be wanting to sort of have a look at and check out before, I guess, investing a huge amount of time or money in. But
I guess that's like maybe a problem for me because I'm not interested in Destiny 2 enough to pay more money for it.
Yeah.
But if there was lots of new free content, then I might be interested in checking it out again. But I'm not going to pay more money for it. So
yeah, I think maybe check out New Light again when that sort of releases, because there'll probably be a bunch of content that you don't recall from the last time you played that is now available to you when that happens, and it will all be free. So. Like if you can jump in and do things like play Gambit, for instance, then you should definitely check that out because that game mode is fun as hell. I love the hell out of it. So, yeah. But, of course, you'll have this huge surge in the player base too because there'll be a lot of people moving over from console to be able to play on PC for the same time with the cross save being a thing. So that's going to be a huge positive as well. So, yeah. But, I just find it fascinating. So I thought I'd chat about the mechanics of it a bit and, yeah. But otherwise, I think that's all for our gaming this week. Let's dive into a bit of news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
Cool. So over the last weekend, EVO happened. For people who may not know, EVO is the Evolution Fighting Games Championship. It is the premier world championship for all fighting games, and it happens in Las Vegas every year. It's been going on since the 90s, and over the last couple of years, they have started having some sort of minor announcements alongside the actual tournaments. It's never been a show about like announcements of new games or anything, but there's a few little droplets here and there.
Yeah, was it MK11 sort of announced last year at EVO? I forget.
I'm not sure if it was main, like it was actually announced at EVO. I don't. Oh,
they definitely showed a trailer of some sort last year. I think it was like a story trailer.
Okay. I remember the Game Awards had a very unpopular trailer with that.
Actually, maybe I'm getting confused with the Game Awards.
Yeah.
No, you're probably right. Yeah.
But yeah, so this year was mainly just some like DLC announcements. So some like new characters for Tekken and Street Fighter 5, like Honda is coming back, and they're adding Poison in, which is she's a cool character. And they like Nightwolf for MK11. The only like new game that was actually announced was a teaser for a new Guilty Gear. So for people who don't know Guilty Gear, it's like an anime fighter by Arc System Works, who made the Dragon Ball Fighters fighting game, which people it's got that really, really cool, like true to anime art style. Like Arc System Works have that's the thing that that's their crowning achievement, is this system they've developed for replicating the look and feel of 2D anime on 3D models. So like when you're actually watching a fight, you could be mistaken for thinking that it's 2D, but then the camera will like rotate around it. I want to quickly shout out a YouTube channel I really like called New Frame Plus. That's a actual video game animator who goes into like deep dives on different like animation details in games. And his most recent video was on Arc System Works and Guilty Gear and how technically they actually developed this system. And it's really, really interesting for anyone who's interested in animation or this anime style in particular. Check out New Frame Plus. It's a really good video. And Riot Games from like League of Legends, they also announced that they're working on a fighting game that has kind of long been known but never been officially announced, because they bought out a company called Radiant Games who were making a fighting game called Rising Thunder. And like Rising Thunder's key thing was that it was supposed to be super accessible. So it had no inputs for special moves. So instead of having to do like, half circle this or quarter circle that, you had a set of special moves that were on a cooldown, more like you'd see in a MOBA or something like that. Because there's always been a big barrier in fighting games, which is the actual input being very complicated for a lot of people, so it can be quite tricky to get into. So making if Riot Games are making a fighting game that is going to be more accessible, then I think that's a really interesting prospect. And because I'd love to see a fighting game become like huge, and if anyone can do it, then maybe it's Riot.
It's like what we were talking about the other week. Like the fighting game sort of scene at the moment just needs that one key title for everybody to rally behind to really start to gain momentum again. Yeah, because I mean, like those games exist for fighting game players. Like people love Dragon Ball FighterZ. People love Smash Bros is always huge. Samurai Showdown's got a good following now. Guilty Gear is huge, but it doesn't break out into outside of its own community. Like there's no Fortnite. There's no like sort of GTA 5 that everybody loves. There's no FIFA. But I think a lot of that is to do with people it not being especially social unless you're playing IRL. So it's not a team-based thing like MOBAs are, or Overwatch is. And then also the input can be quite difficult for people to actually master fighting games. That's my take on it anyway. As an on-screen spectacle, though, I think it's one of the easier to digest esports from the spectator's point of view, for sure.
Yeah, like so with Evo, like I haven't played any of these games, but I tuned in and watched some Samurai Showdown, some Soul Calibur 6, some Smash Ultimate, Tekken 7, Mortal Kombat 11, and I enjoyed watching like all of that. It was all really, really fun to watch, because even if you don't like know the characters and know what all the special moves are, all you need to look at is the health bars at the top, what the like shoutcasters are actually saying is happening, and then you can just enjoy fighting game characters beating the crap out of each other, and you don't need to, like, if I'm looking at League of Legends, I've got no idea what's going on, but I can easily watch a new fighting game and kind of understand intuitively what's happening.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so Evo was cool. There was Sonic Fox. There's a really cool rivalry between Sonic Fox, who is the gay black furry awesome streamer.
It's the trifecta.
The trifecta. Yeah, he won the trending gamer of the year at the Game Awards last year, I think it was.
Yeah,
he's got a rivalry with a Japanese player called Goichi, and they just have the most wholesome kind of like almost straight out of an anime like brotherhood rivalry together, and it's just so fun to watch. And like they made it into like the finals together, and they're like, "I'll see you next year," and like it's very cool. Yeah.
The whole event was just hype as hell this year. Like I
was hype as
enjoyed
hell.
watching it from a distance. It was more so than every other year that I've seen it. I think it really got a lot of attention this year, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
I
go
found
on.
it really interesting. I only watched one title fight, and it's the one with that Sonic Fox won, the MK11 final.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting they were using controllers. And I had just assumed that all fighting games, people used a fight stick. I didn't realize that people used like standard PlayStation controllers. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it does depend on the game and the player. Like some games are predominantly fight sticks, some are predominantly controller, and then even within that, people have individual preferences. Mortal Kombat has usually been a controller-focused series because there's a block button. So games where holding back you block tend to be more popular with sticks. But because in Mortal Kombat you have a block button on one of the shoulders, then that's one of the reasons that happens.
Is that typically a rule where both competitors have to use the same input, or can they choose to use their own?
People use whatever they want. There's like a running gag in fighting games where people will rock up to tournaments with like gimmick controllers. Like there was a dude who, I don't know if he won, he got to the finals of a fighting game tournament using a Mario Kart wheel from the Wii.
Awesome.
And there are people who have played with Guitar Hero guitars. There's a dude who played with the bongo
Like a DDR
drums.
mat?
There might have been a DDR mat as well, but yeah, you're allowed to use whatever you can get away with, and if you can body somebody using a gimmick controller, then that just gives you so much like cred. It's hilarious.
Awesome, yeah. For an event that sort of focuses heavily on the personalities involved, I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, I'll dive in with a bit of a different story this week. Now, this one that kind of gained a lot of traction after sort of just coming out of nowhere and was kind of frightening at the heart of it. So it turns out that the ESA, which for anyone who doesn't know what the ESA are, they are, in fact, the Entertainment Software Association, the trade association for the video game industry in the United States. And they are also the body that runs E3 every year. So pretty big organization. They've gone through some tumultuous times in recent history and copped a lot of criticism for various different things. Their sort of outward attitude towards the unionization of the industry, the changes to E3, this, that, and the other. There's been quite a bit of controversy sort of over a while now. This one is going to rival all of that, though, because it turns out that the ESA have actually managed to leak the personal information of over 2,000 journalists and media personalities who were involved in E3 this year. So the way this happened is apparently there was a spreadsheet which was publicly accessible on the E3 Expo website that contained a whole bunch of contact information for all of these sort of editors and content creators and media personalities and journalists, et cetera, and that includes contact information, phone numbers, personal addresses, emails, all this sort of stuff. And anyone could have gotten hold of it if they sort of knew it was there and sort of went to take a look. It wasn't behind any kind of authorization or lock and key or in a digital sense at all. It was just out there. Now, there was a journalist that sort of realized that this document existed, who put up a YouTube video about it by the name of Sophia Nawitz. And this was posted on her personal channel. And in her video, she described how the file could be accessed and a bit of information about it. But she'd also gone to the effort of actually directly contacting the ESA to sort of say, hey, you might want to do something about this. And upon receiving absolutely no response from them after even attempting an email contact as well, she went out and reached out to a small number of journalists to sort of assist her with kind of, trying to do the right thing when it came to breaking the story and not sort of, compromising a whole bunch of people's information by saying, hey, here's how you go and get it. But it turns out, like, even after multiple attempts to sort of get the ESA to do something about it, they didn't. And word got out there via a very big Kotaku article. So the ESA did respond sort of shortly afterwards and have since removed the information. But that document could be out in the wild anywhere now. And in this day and age, that we're in now, this post-Gamergate day and age of the video games industry, especially with shit going on at the moment, like all of the vitriol and the developer harassment associated with like the Epic Game Store exclusivity deals and stuff that we keep hearing about. Just this week, the developers of Ooblets have sort of been in the crosshairs by a toxic part of the gaming community who have been getting smashed for their decision to to make something their game exclusive on the Epic Store. Imagine if that kind of information, like personal information for people like that, was actually publicly accessible. You know, if a journalist does a piece on a particular game that a whole bunch of the fan base takes exception with, or, you know, someone who's a slightly more controversial figure out there that has their, you know, their fair share of detractors, if you can get hold of their personal information like phone numbers and emails and official sort of contacts and that kind of thing, the amount of shit that could go down is horrifying. Like, not even really from a personal perspective of harassment, but like professional sort of sabotage. Like, someone could quite easily pose as an individual with that information and gain access to things that they have no business gaining access to. So the implications are pretty dire for anyone that you know, got impacted by that kind of thing. And legally, the ESA could be in a lot of shit over this. Like, they could get taken to court, you know, for some pretty serious stuff as a result of this leak. And when you consider that this is the body that, you know, is solely at the moment in charge of running E3, if something dire was to happen to them as a result, then that could quite easily impact future E3 as well. So that's as big as this thing is at the moment. What do you guys think about that? Does that sound...
Oh, it's obviously awful. And like, it's a terrible thing to happen. And especially that it was so much information too, like not just emails, but like addresses and phone numbers.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It's, oh my God, the negligence is just mind blowing. Like I you know, I've worked in many jobs over the years when it comes to, you know, in financial services industry as an example, where, you know, personal information, particularly with data privacy and, you know, financial details for, you know, protecting against terrorism and that kind of stuff is a legitimate concern. That stuff exists in other industries. The video games industry is no different. Yeah. So, yeah.
It reminded me there was actually a much smaller but similar incident that happened with the Australian games media about 2015, where the PR company that was handling PAX Australia, they leaked every game journalist's who was registered email address, but that was email addresses only, which, you know, isn't as bad, and that didn't kind of like blow up like this. It didn't have the same implications. It was pre-Gamergate, gate, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is on a whole other level, and yeah, it's really bad.
I get paranoid when I'm cutting up a credit card and throwing it in the bin. So.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. You cut it crossways and then crossways again, and then you cut the little pieces into little pieces, and you don't stop until you've got at least 20 or so.
I actually usually split it over several bags as well.
Yeah,
So it's not
I'm
only
the
one
same.
bag.
I'm totally the same. Oh my God. Yeah. So I mean, can you imagine if your details were on this list? Then you'd be having a heart attack right now. So
yeah, I wouldn't be very happy, I don't think.
Yeah. That's it. So I'm very curious to see where this leads. I'm sure the answer is nowhere good, but it is what it is at the moment. So stay tuned for more on that as time goes by, I'm sure. So
I have a little bit of lighter news, and I might start it off with a little ad that I posted recently in the newspaper. So bear with me, gentlemen. Single green female seeking like-minded horde beefcake. Last seen at Ogrimmar Cafe, you wore big green shoulder pads. I wore basic leathers. Likes long walks in the Barrens and uncataclysmic sunsets. So do you have any idea?
The Barrens are under attack. The Barrens are under attack.
Single green female. That's awesome.
Single green female is my news item for the week. So it's quite a feel-good story, I think. So Blizzard has set up a new series of forums that are dedicated to helping people who played original vanilla WoW track down other players that they may have spent time with during that period of time. So the way it works is you log on to these specific forums, and there's a series of sort of branching choices that eventually will narrow you down to which server you were on, what time period you played in, which faction you were. And then once you finally arrived in that specific forum, that encaptures the time and place that you played Vanilla WoW, you can then post your character's name and seek out other people that you may have spent time with but have lost contact with. So it's kind of bringing people back together for Vanilla WoW, and I thought that was quite a feel-good sort of romantic kind of story.
It's lovely.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I think it's sort of, with all sort of the drudgery and the ESA leaks of the gaming industry, it's nice to hear about sort of people reconnecting over stuff that they all enjoyed. So
I'm looking forward to the stories that come out at the other end of this.
I am too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear about people that are like, oh, I finally tracked down this one guy, and he
Turns out he's an asshole.
Yeah, he gave me like a little bit of gold at the beginning, and I became one of the most popular guild leaders in WoW history. Something like that. There's probably going to be some nice little stories, but until then, I'm just going to keep searching for my beefcake.
I'm just going to go and like catfish somebody and just steal someone's identity and say I was there. And oh, it's nice seeing you again, Ragmar. Give me some gold.
Oh no,
Poor Ragmar.
I think that this is a really unique situation. There's no other game that could ever have gotten to the point where this could be a thing. Really, it's
Neopets.
Yeah, sure.
We'll start our own Neopet forum, Christian, where we could track down old... Did you interact with other people on Neopets?
Yeah, there were forums, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there's forums for everything on the dark side of the web, so that doesn't indicate anything.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It is pretty pretty unique there. Well, unique. I think it's cool too how Blizzard have set up this branching system of forums, whereas like a lazier developer would have just had like, this is the forum, post your details here and try and reconnect with people. But they've gone to this effort, which I think is really cool.
Absolutely,
yeah, it's great. It makes it nice and easy, so you can sort of narrow down who you're looking for. I guess the final part that might be a bit tricky is scrolling through like hundreds and hundreds of posts looking for a familiar name or something like that. But maybe there's a search function I haven't seen yet. But
I want this to inspire a reunion series of Felicia Day's The Guild.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
I would be there for that.
Because it's kind of like, because that series is like, geez, over 10 years old now.
It's
like,
so
that was
good,
like 2000.
though.
It's so good. But like, now is the time for them to come back and like have this sort of story. I think it'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
Side topic, I saw Felicia Day on a cooking show recently that's on Netflix. It's called Nailed It, where like people have to like they get shown like a really fancy cake or something that looks really complicated, and all the people who are competing are like have no cooking experience, and they have to like try and nail that, like recreate that cake. And this particular episode was like a geek themed episode, and Felicia Day was one of the judges. So
there you go. She's out there kicking.
Yeah, she's doing something.
Doing stuff. She's got some babies now, I think. But
she was most recently on Magicians. She had a kick-ass character on that show actually. So yeah,
cool.
Nice.
There you go. Maybe she'll agree to join us as a guest host. Sometime.
Yeah. I'm sure she's a listener. She's an avid listener of the show.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. Daytime TV makes total sense to me. Cool. All right. Well, anyway, let's dive into our main topic for tonight, and of course, it is the first show of the month, which means it is none other than Party Game of the Month time. And tonight, we're going to be doing a pretty close to home game review, as it turns out, because we're going to be chatting about a little game called Teleblast, which is a export of Western Australia itself, our own home state, our own hometown. And the developer who recommended the game to us is, in fact, the creator of the game, Tim Valletta. So thank you very much, Tim, for recommending that to us.
He's my neighbour. He's not my neighbour.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You guys may have run into him at some point, but I definitely met Tim last year at PAX for the first time, because Teleblast, as it turns out, was one of the finalists at the PAX showcase, the indie showcase. So, so yeah, it was up on. Was it last year or the year before it was the finals? I'm pretty sure it was last year. I would have to check that, but I'm almost certain it was last year. It was definitely a standout there. Got to play a bunch of it last year, and then we actually got together and played a bunch a couple of weeks ago, and we had 4 of us playing local multiplayer video games for the first time in fuck knows when.
The first time ever for the 4 of us.
I think all 4 of us at once. Yeah, it probably is the first time. Yeah.
And in saying that, I don't think I've even going back to the N64 days. I don't think I ever played 4-player local multiplayer before.
Wow.
Ever. I don't think I've ever done it with more than one other person.
I think
so that was cool.
Really?
The last time I did it would have been with one of the Bombermans, I think.
Oh wait, no, I remember we actually the only other time I can think of was with you, Luke. It was when Fire Warrior came out on the PS2.
Oh yeah, holy shit, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember. And we went around to your place, and that's when we were all working at Games Workshop, and we played Fire Warrior.
That was like 2003.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that is a long time ago. There you go.
Fuck, Christian, you were just out of the womb. Holy shit.
Terrifying.
Oh man. Yeah, no. I also, I guess on that, like one of the things that surprised me the most about this game is that the local multiplayer actually didn't crash and burn in a heap. It actually worked reasonably well from the get-go. Like we didn't have to mess around with it too much. But like we were, the game we got on Steam. So I should probably mention it is available on Steam. It is early access. It's been in early access since late last year because it was released initially on the 26th of October. Pretty cheap. It's only $9.99. We got it on Steam. I loaded it onto my laptop, and then basically you guys all came around and we all Bluetoothed PS4 controllers to my laptop, which is a thing you can do with Steam now that you never used to be able to do because of the drivers not being native to Windows for PlayStation 4 controllers, but it's all supported by Steam now, which made the whole thing much easier. Once we got that set up, which was surprisingly painless, the game played beautifully with all 4 controllers and even assigned us like custom colors and shit and worked great. So I was shocked. Like I honestly didn't expect it to work with how it did. So yeah.
I was expecting to not end up playing Teleblast that evening, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like if it hadn't worked, but yeah, it was a nice surprise.
Absolutely. Yeah, the barrier to setup wasn't bad at all. Apparently you can actually play the game 2-player with a single keyboard. Like you can actually use the WASD controls and then the keypad on the other side to do it. But
like worms.
That's old school, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I haven't heard of a game doing that for a long time. But yeah. So, all right. Now, who out of you two, because I'm going to throw it to one of you for this next bit, wants to describe the style of game that Teleblast is? How would you like to get
It should be Adrian.
All right. Go, Adrian. If you had to describe it.
Do I hear a bus coming and a firm hand on my back? Because I think that's what just happened. Okay, so how to describe it? It's kind of arcadey multiplayer is kind of what comes to mind. So if you got for our listeners at home, our muscular listeners, if you think of the little triangle ship from Asteroids. Now imagine there are 4 of them on the screen, and then imagine there are some just simple block-shaped barriers or walls littered around, and imagine that the screen is kind of like a battlefield. And those 4 triangle-shaped ships have to... the goal is to be the last one alive in a number of rounds, and then depending on what you set the settings to, let's say it's 5 rounds, the first person... 5 kills. The first person to eliminate 5 other players over a number of rounds is the winner. So it's a fairly simple premise, and you maneuver your little avatars. We'll just call them ships for the sake of the game. Yeah. You maneuver your little ships around using the thumbsticks on your controller, and the way you eliminate other players is by shooting out a ball in front of you that will bounce around the arena, kind of like a breakout ball from the old breakout game.
Ooh, good comparison. Yep.
And once that ball leaves your ship, if you then press the fire button again, you teleport to where the ball currently is and send out a small blast radius around you, which will damage the other players. So every player starts with a shield, so you can take 1 hit, which will remove your shield, and then upon your second hit, you're killed and knocked out of that round. So the idea is to shoot the ball, wait till it approaches a nearby player, trigger the teleport to the ball, send out the radius, and kill that player. Now the trick is that the arenas are very small, and the longer you leave your ball bouncing around the arena, the bigger the explosion is when you teleport to it. Mm-hmm. So it becomes quite a frantic, exciting exchange where you might think that you could be rather tactical, but I guarantee that panic sets in as soon as another player, starts making their way towards you and you know what's going to happen, and you end up just spamming the teleport button until one of you dies.
Yeah.
So it ends up being quite frantic. That kind of is in a nutshell how it works. Would you guys say that that's accurate?
I think the other thing that matters too is because of the nature of the shot and the teleport that immediately follows it, you can't rapid fire at enemies. So,
That's right.
yeah, because you immediately end up where your last shot was. So if you fire another shot immediately, you're teleporting forward again instantly, which is going to be like you're not shooting at the right thing anymore. You're going to be way off base. So, yeah.
I think one of the key elements as well is that the game has a very good sense of movement and speed. You can also boost. You can do, if you hit the circle button, you do like a little dash, which is useful for getting you out of trouble. But most of the time, it's the kind of game where you can tell when you're about to die because
Christian's still in the match with you.
Yeah, because Christian is playing first off is when you know you're going to die. Yeah. But also because you can't outrun an explosion from another player. So unless you're really quick on the draw and you start running before they even get to you. So it's an interesting sort of dynamic of sort of frantic gameplay and stress-inducing. But it makes for some really hilarious moments because because of the random nature of the bouncing of the shots that you make. It can be quite stress-inducing and panicky. So that's where a lot of the fun sets in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a really fun game, and that's not just because I won 7 out of 8 rounds. I just thought I'd drop that in there just casually.
Yeah. No one else was counting, but sure.
No, yeah.
I was because I was the other one.
But it is super chaotic, and like at least I was constantly kind of forgetting the implications of teleporting to where I'd shoot, where I'd be like, I'm going to shoot this guy, and then I'd explode and teleport there and be like, oh crap, that's right, that's what happens in this game. Yeah. And then it's just like panic.
And the number of times you teleport into someone's blast is just horrendous.
Yeah.
That's mostly how the game plays. There are a couple of options you can tweak. So there's not many. Let's call them modifiers to the basic structure of the game, but there's three different things that you can modify. One of them is the way that your shot behaves in relation to other players. So you can turn on a setting that makes it pull players toward the shot as it detonates. There's another setting where you can dash. You can make it so that when you do your little dash, you can go through walls. Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember what the other one was. Do you guys remember what some of those other settings were?
It was multi-shot, I think.
Multi-shot? There was homing, black hole, teleporty thing. Was there was. Yeah, sorry. Like it was like multi-shot where the explosion generates 4 smaller projectiles.
Right. Yeah.
That was chaos. Kind of that was bedlam.
Mm.
Yeah, like a cluster bomb sort of thing.
That was insane. That was the worst one.
Yeah.
Yep. Overall, it was a lot of fun, and I can certainly, like, when I think of this game in retrospect, I just imagine it sitting at a party. So, like, everyone's going about their business, having drinks, having a good time, and then there's like a TV set up over in the corner with 4 controllers, and it just sits there, and people can drop in and drop out and play a couple of rounds and have a good laugh, and then go back to the party. It's not the kind of game that you would sit there playing for hours and hours and hours. I think the short-term enjoyment has a pretty swift cap on it, even compared to games like if you go back to the 64 and something like GoldenEye, where you might sit there and play that for ages with people. I think because the game is so simple, it's not that it gets boring, but you kind of wear out it. You kind of wear it out after a little while.
Short bursts.
It is like simple in its concept, but that like it actually, as we were playing it, I was thinking like this could have been programmed on probably an Atari. Like the actual just core thing of having, if you could have 4 players on an Atari, but like it's a very simple setup of just 4 little moving characters which shoot 1 projectile that bounces off boundaries, and then when you press the fire button again, you swap places and generate a little explosion. Like it's simple but very elegant in its execution. It is that kind of perfect party game where it's easy to understand after a couple of seconds. There's like no one's going to have like a major advantage over somebody else. You know, I guess I did win a lot, but like
genetic advantage, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it even though that did happen, it does feel like an even footing for everybody. Basically, yeah. It's got almost like Mario Kart sort of thing where anyone can just sit down and enjoy playing it, even if you lose. But
it's definitely one of those easy to learn, difficult to master games, because there was definitely strategies to adopt in there that we're discovering as we went along. Yeah.
Yeah, I was always just mashing the button. I don't know how I actually won. I don't think that I'm especially better at it. I was just going nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I never said it, but I suspected as much, Christian.
yeah.
I definitely wasn't doing that.
I had no
I was
strategy
actually
at all.
trying to outthink you and sort of time everything. The thing I discovered, though, is when we were playing the Capture the Flag variant in particular, that one got really tense and strategic because it wasn't just about killing each other. It was about trying to keep that flag and get it back to your base whole without having 3 other players gang up on you.
You're right. That one was much more tactical. Yeah.
Yeah. And using the dash properly in that round was critical. So
what I found was really helpful in that is anticipating when somebody is about to score and then positioning myself near where the flag spawns.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a good strategy. I found one of the most enjoyable things about the game is often disregarding the chaos and setting up near someone's return point and just blocking them from making a score. I found that was had its own little gleeful, evil joy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I mean, it didn't take long for all of us to be hooting and hollering and making a whole bunch of fun, enjoying the hell out of this game noise. So that's probably a testament above all else to the fact that we, had a really, really good time playing it together. So
it was honestly probably the most condensed fun I've had playing video games in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Like I don't get out and play local games much with people, barely, like, ever at all. So having this experience, it was super good fun. Anyone who has a couple of mates who would enjoy this kind of party, quick fun party game, definitely a game to get.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend making it one course in part of a several course evening of gaming. So maybe get your mates together, find a couple of other short games that you can play together and make this one of them, and I think you'd be in for a really good night.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're not going to be playing it for hours, but for the time that you do play it, you will really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the fact that I can put this on a laptop and just travel around with a couple of like DualShock 4s or whatever controller I choose to use. And that means that I can take this to PAX no problem. Like, that's not going to be an issue at all. And set it up in the hotel room and play it. And, that's a perfect time because we're going to have a bunch of people there wanting to kill some time in the evenings and, keen to do some local multiplayer. So that is a thing that will be happening this year. I can guarantee that 100%.
That's just made me think that this would be a perfect game for the Switch, I think, as well. Having this little tabletop mode for 4 Joy-Cons, and then it'd be perfect thing just to carry around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
it's a really good idea. Maybe it'll make its way there. Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it is in early access at the moment. We did encounter a couple of small glitches as we played. Nothing major.
Oh yeah,
but there was one where we teleported under like one of the barriers at one point, carrying the flag, and I think one of us got killed, and the flag got stuck under the barrier. It was like, oh shit.
And then we couldn't quit the game at one point, and then we were all invincible.
Right. Yeah. But the rounds are so quick that it was fine. Like, we just reset the round and went straight back in for the next one.
Off you go.
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal. But no, I mean, a little bit more polish, and I can't see why it wouldn't be pretty much ready to go. But what do you guys think that the price was appropriate for the amount of fun that we packed in? $9.99?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, easy.
Especially because only one person needs to buy it. Like,
oh yeah.
When you think about that, like.
No, I think that's a perfect price point, actually.
Yep. Super relevant. So, yeah, cool. That is Teleblast. So, well done, Tim. You recommended us your own game and we didn't shred you.
Yeah.
Good job.
But I would have as well. Totally.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If I was
the fact that we know the dev wouldn't have actually changed anything. We actually did enjoy the shit out of it. It was, the proof was in the pudding.
You would not be immune from our vitriolic diatribe. Don't you worry.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that's it. Now, as a bit of a sort of a wrap up on this one, as it turns out, Teleblast is actually our, for now, final party game of the month, because we're going to be making some changes to this segment.
What a perfect final game, party game, though it is.
Yeah.
I think it perfectly encapsulates what we were doing with party game of the month.
100%.
So.
You know what it is? It's like all this time we've been searching for the party game, and we did it.
Yeah.
Now we can retire put the crown on Teleblast, and then
that's right.
Yeah.
And retire the segment.
Congratulations, Tim.
Absolutely. But I mean,
you won party game. You won it.
Absolutely.
There's no prize. Don't ask us for a prize.
No. The prize is us loving it as much as we did. So yeah. But I mean, party game of the month as a segment, we've been running on Party Loaded for a long, long time now. We actually kicked it off. I think it was in the second year of the podcast, but we've been doing it for nearly 3 years now. So it's been a very long-running sort of continuous segment. And essentially, we've just decided that we want to change things up and freshen our approach to our recurring monthly segment a little bit. So Party Game of the Month is going away for now. We thank everybody over the course of that last couple of years that submitted and recommended games to us. Even the ones that we hated, we generated some fantastic discussion about. So it's always worth the effort in one way or another.
The games you recommended were bad and you should feel bad.
That's it. But we're going to replace it with something else, which we'll be doing on the same sort of schedule. But we're not going to chat about that tonight. We'll chat about that in a bit more detail in a future episode. But suffice to say that we will be doing something in its place. And we are going to still be enjoying playing a whole bunch of games in a different way. So more on that soon. But it's been a great fun segment, and I think over the course of the last couple of years, we've definitely had some bangers that we probably wouldn't have touched if it wasn't for Party Game of the Month. So
cue the montage.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Goodbye, my lover.
I mean,
goodbye, my friend. You're the only game for me.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
The listeners will have to imagine their own montage. Something fading in and out. You get that.
Yeah.
Cursive writing.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, any of the other games that we've checked out and reviewed over that time, go back and listen to it. Go play them. Definitely go and play Teleblast. Support our local WA devs as well, because that's something that's super important to us and should be important to everybody in the industry. Support your indie devs. But that, as far as that goes, is the end of the episode. So as per usual, you can get us at all the same places. So hit us up at our main hub at channelendgame.com or send us emails at mail@partyloaded.com. At PartyLoaded Show on Twitter. Yeah, I know, I stumbled just for a sec. Thanks for pointing it out, you jerk. Facebook, PartyLoaded, and of course you can catch us on YouTube at youtube.com/channelendgame or on Twitch at twitch.tv/PartyLoaded. A lot more happening on Twitch at the moment. It's been fun. We've been doing some assorted stuff, and you guys have got some planned game activity that I'm looking forward to observing in the near future. So
yeah. We just need some space.
Yeah.
Hint.
That's it. Matt and I are going to jump on and play some more Wolfenstein. I'm back with my Minecraft Monday shenanigans. So that's been all happening and good. And I'm going to start streaming some Destiny, I think. It's a time that I need to jump in and do that. So, Christian, if you want to actually see firsthand some of the stuff, maybe you'll get a chance to see me doing it. So...
At least I won't have to pay for it, so maybe I will.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, you guys got anything else interesting on this week? What's the haps?
Fire Emblem.
Well, actually, I do. Yeah, I do have something interesting, and it's that the listeners of last week's podcast might remember I was having trouble with my PC.
Oh, yeah.
And I was having some really horrible frame rate issues. We managed to fix that. So it turns out it was just a simple antivirus scan that removed a bunch of shit off my computer. And it gave me 30 to 40 extra frames in Battlefield 5.
Wow.
So that has kind of left me wanting to put my system to the test, because I haven't had that good a frame rate since I got my new monitor. So I became I have been tempted by Destiny just to see how it looks now that my computer's up and running again. So maybe
I will say the new areas in Forsaken, the Dreaming City in particular, are absolutely jaw-droppingly beautiful. So yeah,
we'll see. Perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Nice. If you really want to put your system through its paces, though, I hear Crysis is still the go-to. So
Crisis?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's the hot word on the street every time that question comes up when I see it on a forum somewhere. So
the first Crisis.
Apparently. I've got no fucking idea why. Apparently it's just really badly optimized.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Well, I'll be playing a bunch of Hearthstone, I think, and checking out the new cards and the new expansion. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to chatting again with you gents next week with a whole bunch of new stuff. But thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Until next time, 7 days' time, we'll see you then. Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.